In the sprawling expanse of the galaxy, where countless civilizations thrived and conflicts brewed under every starlit corner, an undeniable truth began to crystallize. Humanity had become infamous for its snipers. These human marksmen had earned a reputation that spread through the stars with rapidity and terror, becoming a whispered legend among alien soldiers and a source of dread among the galaxy's rulers. Species that once considered humans little more than primitive newcomers found themselves forced to reckon with an unexpected reality. The humans' deadly precision in battle was redefining the very nature of interstellar warfare. Humanity's talent for precise, unseen strikes struck fear into the hearts of beings from advanced civilizations, many of whom had once dismissed the race as weak and insignificant. By the year 2345, humanity's skills with long-range weapons had become such a force that the Galactic Council, the premier alliance of spacefaring civilizations, was compelled to convene a meeting dedicated solely to addressing what was now known as the human sniper problem. This urgent summit took place in the grand halls of Alt Prime, a world revered for its neutrality and long history as a gathering place for the galaxy's leading powers. Alt Prime's assembly chambers were designed to accommodate beings of all shapes and sizes, from the towering Vorin to the nimble Zarthans and the graceful Allans, each of whom had unique attributes reflecting the diversity of interstellar life. The massive halls echoed with the low hum of conversation and the rustling of ceremonial robes as delegates took their seats, each representative exuding an air of authority and self-importance. As they settled in, an air of tension grew, for they were gathered with a singular purpose: to devise a way to end the threat that human snipers posed once and for all. Among them sat Tyrell, a respected diplomat from the Xerian race, renowned for his deep understanding of psychology, particularly human psychology. With shimmering blue and gold skin that seemed to reflect the light, he commanded attention as he rose to open the discussion. "We must acknowledge the sheer audacity of these humans," Tyrell began, his voice both authoritative and contemplative. "They approach warfare with a finesse that undermines even our most well-crafted strategies and takes advantage of our strengths in ways we hadn't anticipated. They are not limited by the same rules we assume others must follow." Tyrell's words hung in the air as the assembled leaders exchanged tense glances, each recognizing that his statement rang with an uncomfortable truth. Though many present were loath to admit it, humanity's unique approach to combat had proven time and again that even inferior technology could become lethal in the right hands. Across the room, Gars, a hulking representative from the Vorin, a race famed for their brute strength and technological advancements, nodded in agreement. His deep voice resonated through the hall as he rumbled, "They hide in the shadows, striking from impossible distances. Their technology is rudimentary compared to ours, but they manage to create devastating chaos in our ranks. It's a mockery of what we consider advanced warfare." There was a low murmur of assent as other delegates echoed his sentiment. For the technologically superior Vorin, whose warships and energy-based weaponry were known across the galaxy, it was particularly galling that humanity could pose a serious threat with what they saw as basic projectile weapons. Yet there was no denying the facts. Human snipers had outmaneuvered them time and time again, wreaking havoc on battlefields with simple bullets and a mastery of stealth and patience. Seated beside Gars was Elysia, the envoy of the Allans, a sophisticated and warlike species known for their agility and strategic acumen. With a graceful movement, she leaned forward, her sharp eyes narrowed in contemplation. "It is their unpredictability that irks me the most," she said, her voice filled with an edge of frustration. "They do not just fight with weapons. They fight with cunning. They turn every battlefield into a game of wits, observing, adapting, and overcoming obstacles with a creativity we often underestimate." She paused, letting her words sink in. "It's infuriating." Her remarks were met with nods of agreement. Each species present had their own experiences of human snipers, and as the conversation continued, representatives began to share stories of the losses their people had suffered at human hands. Battles that should have been straightforward victories had turned into routs, their strategic strongholds dismantled by a single well-placed shot. As these tales unfolded, a mix of admiration and resentment permeated the assembly. None of the gathered leaders wanted to admit it, but they knew that humans, who they had once dismissed as a lesser species, had outsmarted them time and again, using nothing more than their wits and an archaic arsenal. Meanwhile, on the far side of the galaxy, far from the gilded halls of Alt Prime, a human sniper named Riley Hawk prepared for yet another mission. She was a shadow among shadows, her sharp eyes scanning the horizon from her concealed position, alert and ready. Riley had been in many battles, and with every squeeze of the trigger, she felt both the weight of the galaxy's disdain for her kind and an unshakable sense of purpose. Sniping for Riley was more than just a job, it was an art form. She approached each target with precision, treating each shot as if it were a brushstroke in a masterpiece. Riley's mind wandered briefly to the day she first became a sniper. It was during a brutal war on Earth, a time when humanity had been backed into a corner, with cities crumbling under the assault of alien invaders. Amid the chaos, she had discovered her uncanny gift for precision, patience, and calm under pressure. Over the years, she had honed her skills, rising beyond the role of a mere soldier to become a symbol of resilience, a thorn in the side of the galaxy's most powerful empires. As she took aim from her hidden vantage point, Riley reflected on the intense hatred many alien species directed toward her and her fellow snipers. She knew that this contempt was not simply jealousy, it was fear. Humanity had turned the tide in battles that seemed unwinnable, dismantling what should have been insurmountable alien superiority with nothing more than a bullet and an indomitable will. In a distant war room back on Alt Prime, Tyrell and his fellow diplomats had reached the heart of their discussion. The question of how to neutralize humanity's snipers hung heavily over the room. Perhaps we need to raise a coalition, Tyrell suggested thoughtfully, breaking the tense silence. An alliance dedicated solely to hunting these snipers. We could combine our skills and resources, creating a task force that brings together the unique talents of each species to overcome this human threat. There was a pause as the assembled representatives considered his proposal. Each species possessed distinctive abilities that, if unified, could indeed present a formidable countermeasure to humanity's tactics. The Zarthans, with their telepathic prowess, could potentially detect humans hiding in the shadows. The Vorin could bring overwhelming force and advanced technology to bear, while the Alans' agility and adaptability might rival that of the humans themselves. However, Elysia shook her head, voicing a concern that others were hesitant to admit. Creating a coalition sounds strategic, but we must be cautious, she warned. These humans do not fight in the ways we expect. They are unpredictable, and if we approach them as we would any other enemy, they will adapt faster than we can react. For all their primitiveness, they have shown a remarkable ability to learn from their surroundings and to counter even the most advanced technologies. Tyrell, who had studied humanity extensively, nodded in agreement. He knew that facing humans on the battlefield meant confronting an enemy who could change the rules mid-conflict, a species that saw every engagement as an opportunity for innovation. Tyrell's suggestion lingered in the minds of the assembly, each representative feeling the weight of the potential coalition's necessity and risk. The human threat, while subtle and indirect, had undeniably shaken the foundations of interstellar power. Their snipers embodied the unpredictable nature of humanity, a race that seemed to defy conventional tactics and redefine the art of warfare with nothing but rudimentary tools. Yet, despite the clarity of the danger, Elysia's warning rang true. Engaging humans in combat was nothing like engaging other species. Their willingness to employ creativity and lateral thinking set them apart. Formulating a coalition, therefore, required more than simple brute force. It demanded the utmost caution and a level of strategy previously unnecessary for any other alliance. If they were to truly eradicate the human snipers, they would need to learn not only the humans' methods but also the underlying psychological drive that propelled these humans to strike from the shadows and constantly outwit their opponents. As the deliberations continued, an unsettling realization began to dawn on the diplomats. The galaxy had long viewed humanity as weak or inferior, yet, in a strange twist, this perception had fueled humanity's desire to prove itself on the galactic stage. Human snipers were not merely soldiers. They were symbols of resistance and adaptability, fueled by the relentless pursuit of survival in a galaxy that had little sympathy for the newcomers. The assembly began to understand that humanity's power did not come solely from skill or technology, but from an underlying resilience and fierce independence. To combat humanity's snipers would require the coalition to adopt an entirely new approach to warfare, one that embraced subtlety, patience, and innovation, qualities that humans had naturally mastered through their history of conflict and adversity. This revelation unsettled the assembly even further, as it forced each representative to confront the uncomfortable truth that they might need to become a little more like their enemy to defeat them. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Riley Hawk lay poised, ready to take her next shot. She was well aware of the reputation her kind had garnered among alien armies, and with a deep breath, she focused on the task at hand. Her mission was more than just a strategic strike, it was a statement. She understood that each successful shot was another reminder to the galaxy of humanity's presence and resilience. With her finger steady on the trigger, she felt the dual weight of both her species' underdog reputation and the fierce pride she carried for her role in challenging the galaxy's most powerful beings. To her, every pull of the trigger was more than just a kill, it was an assertion of humanity's right to be recognized, respected, and feared. With a calm heartbeat and sharp focus, Riley fired, her shot ringing out through the silence, a deadly echo of humanity's will to survive. As Gru slammed his massive armored fist onto the conference table, the sound reverberated through the hall, silencing the ongoing debate and drawing the attention of every species present. His deep, guttural voice rumbled as he spoke, each word laced with frustration and an unyielding determination. "A dedicated force," he proclaimed, "is what we need. We shall call it the Coalition Against Human Snipers." He surveyed the room, his gaze sweeping across the assembled representatives, daring any to challenge him. "We will gather the finest warriors from each of our worlds, unite our strongest strategists, and show these humans their place in the galaxy. They cannot be allowed to continue defying our power." At the other end of the table, Elia, a slim but fierce envoy from the Aeoran species, raised a skeptical eyebrow. Her voice cut through the quiet that followed Gru's pronouncement, calm but insistent. "And what if they adapt, Gru? What if they find a way to use our own coalition against us?" Her sharp, golden eyes scanned the room, searching for understanding in her fellow diplomats' expressions. "Humanity has an innate ability to learn, to evolve," she continued. "We've all seen it firsthand. Time and again they've turned the tide of battle not through sheer strength, but through their unpredictable adaptability. Forming a coalition is no guarantee of victory." This statement sent a ripple of unease through the assembly, causing murmurs to break out once more as each representative digested her words. However, Gru remained unshaken. To him, the human's knack for adaptation was an infuriating obstacle but one he believed could be overcome with sufficient force. "Our technological superiority in numbers will overwhelm them," he insisted. "We are the galaxy's elite. Human snipers, no matter their skill, are nothing more than pests who have grown far too bold." 4 hours, the representatives discussed and debated strategies, each species offering unique ideas on how best to confront the human sniper threat. The Zarthans proposed using their telepathic abilities to detect and anticipate human movements, while the technologically advanced Vorin suggested employing advanced detection systems that could expose the snipers' positions. The Aeoran, known for their cunning, proposed psychological tactics designed to break human morale. Yet, none among them seemed to realize that their meticulous planning and reliance on brute force were exactly the weaknesses that humans had learned to exploit. By overthinking and assuming superiority, they risked falling into the very traps that humans had laid time and again on countless battlefields. Eventually, after much back and forth, the assembly reached a reluctant consensus. A coalition would be formed, and their goal was clear: eliminate the human snipers, extinguish the growing threat, and restore their species' dominance in the galaxy. Confident in their plan, they set about gathering their forces, drawing elite soldiers and tactical minds from each of their worlds. Plans were drawn, tactics refined, and the coalition against human snipers was officially born. They would root out the humans wherever they hid, end the reign of terror these snipers had inflicted, and make an example of humanity's arrogance. They would ensure that the galaxy never again had to fear the precision of a human sniper's scope. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the human sniper Riley Hawk was unaware of the impending storm brewing against her kind. She had been receiving whispers of an alliance of species united to target human snipers, but such news did little to rattle her. She had lived most of her life on the edge, one finger on the trigger, each mission a silent duel against enemies who vastly outnumbered her. When intelligence finally confirmed the formation of the coalition, Riley felt a strange surge of pride. If they were willing to form an entire alliance against her kind, then the humans had clearly made their mark on the galaxy. It was not simply about survival anymore. For Riley, this was a matter of pride, a testament to the tenacity and skill that humanity possessed, a trait that no species could ignore. Steeling herself for the inevitable confrontations ahead, Riley began to study the coalition's movements. She knew that to survive, she would need to stay several steps ahead. Drawing on her years of experience, she meticulously gathered intelligence on their strategies, mapped out their likely headquarters, and analyzed every possible angle they might use to track her. She anticipated their moves, countering every decision they made, and exploited every gap in their defenses. As she executed her plan, Riley felt a fierce satisfaction, knowing that each shot she took sent shockwaves through the coalition's ranks. Her targets, one by one, began to fall. The coalition's best soldiers, warriors who had been deemed their species elite, were unable to withstand the precision and ruthlessness of her sniper skills. Reports of Riley's exploits spread rapidly among the coalition forces. Stories circulated of the Ghost Sniper, a human who was more shadow than soldier, capable of taking out targets from distances deemed impossible. To the coalition, Riley became a nightmare, her reputation growing with each fallen warrior. Fear and hatred began to mix in equal measure among the ranks, but with every tale of her lethal prowess, an unsettling respect started to emerge as well. She was no longer just a threat, she was a symbol of humanity's resilience and sheer audacity. In their distant war room, the coalition leaders began to realize the gravity of their task. Tyrell, the Xerian diplomat who had originally urged the assembly to consider humanity's adaptability, watched the reports come in with a growing sense of dread. Perhaps, he began slowly, addressing the room with an air of reluctant resignation, our approach is flawed. Perhaps instead of hunting them down, we should try to understand them. His words were met with shock, but Tyrell pressed on. We've been treating humans as if they're simple creatures, as if they rely solely on brute force or tactics. But clearly there's something deeper here. They fight fiercely, yes, but they also fight for something more. If we can understand what drives them, we may find a way to neutralize them without endless bloodshed. The suggestion met with skepticism, but after a series of bitter losses, the coalition leaders agreed to attempt a different approach. They sent envoys to Earth, seeking an audience with human leaders in the hopes of establishing a dialogue. Though many coalition members doubted the success of this tactic, the mounting losses left them little choice. Their previous strategies had failed, and it was clear that brute force alone would not be enough. During this time, Riley remained oblivious to the shift in tactics. To her, each mission was a battle for survival, a relentless fight to protect humanity's honor in the face of overwhelming opposition. She continued her campaign with the same dedication and precision, unaware that a different kind of confrontation awaited her. Months passed and the coalition's envoys spent time on Earth, studying human culture, their values, and their resilience. They learned about the stories that defined humanity, the tales of soldiers who fought against overwhelming odds, the humor and camaraderie that sustained them through hardship, and the stubbornness that had seen them survive countless adversities. The coalition representatives found themselves slowly coming to understand humanity in a new light. Humans were not driven by conquest or destruction, but by survival and a fierce independence that refused to be subdued. Gradually, the coalition's narrative began to shift. The humans were no longer seen merely as threats or adversaries. They were now viewed as a species worthy of respect, their strength lying in their ability to adapt, overcome, and endure. Riley's reputation as a sniper became a point of admiration, a symbol of human tenacity and ingenuity in the face of impossible odds. Her story was not one of hatred, but of survival and determination, a reminder to the galaxy of what humanity could achieve. Finally, the day arrived for a climactic confrontation. The coalition tracked Riley's movements to a remote battlefield, surrounding her position with the intention of a decisive face-off. But as they closed in, Riley found herself facing something entirely unexpected. Instead of opening fire, Tyrell himself stepped forward, raising a hand in a gesture of peace. "We once sought to eradicate you," he admitted, his voice carrying across the clearing. "But now we seek to understand. You are more than just a sniper, Riley. You are a force of nature, a testament to humanity's spirit." Caught off guard, Riley lowered her weapon, stunned by the unexpected shift in tone. For the first time, the tension of combat gave way to a tentative dialogue. As the coalition representatives shared their newfound respect for humanity, the animosity that had once defined their relationship began to dissolve. The hatred that had fueled their war was replaced by an understanding of what it meant to be human in a galaxy that had so often dismissed them. From that day forward, human snipers were no longer viewed solely as threats. Instead, they were celebrated for their cunning, resilience, and strength. Humanity, once seen as a lesser species, now stood as equals in the eyes of the galaxy. In this new alliance, the galaxy learned that understanding could bridge even the deepest divides, that empathy was a far more powerful weapon than hatred could ever be. The coalition's newfound respect for humanity wasn't just confined to their view of snipers like Riley. As their diplomats spent more time on Earth, they began to uncover deeper aspects of human resilience, creativity, and capacity for unity. They saw how, despite centuries of internal conflict, humanity could rally in the face of a common threat, setting aside differences and embracing a spirit of collaboration. It was a strength that ran deeper than any military skill, rooted in the core of human nature. The coalition members realized that this was what made humans so formidable, so hard to conquer. They did not fight simply for territory or power, they fought for each other. This revelation struck a chord within the coalition, inspiring many species to reflect on their own values and alliances. As news of the coalition's shift in perspective spread, other galactic societies took notice. Once seen as volatile and unpredictable, humanity's standing in the galaxy transformed as tales of Riley and the coalition's peace efforts circulated. Stories of bravery and adaptability became symbols of what humanity could bring to a galaxy often ruled by rigid hierarchies and ancient grudges. Alien leaders began to consider alliances, trade agreements, and cultural exchanges with humanity, viewing them not as threats but as potential allies and equals. A newfound era of cooperation dawned, with humans seen not as aggressors but as visionaries who could help chart a new path forward, balancing peace with the potential for defense. Riley's legend grew into something much larger than her lone exploits, encapsulating the essence of a species that could change the course of history. As Riley returned to Earth, she reflected on the monumental shift her efforts had unknowingly sparked. What had begun as a solitary mission of survival had evolved into a bridge between humanity and the galaxy. She was no longer a ghost in the shadows, feared and misunderstood. Instead, she was a celebrated hero, a symbol of resilience and unity. Her journey had taught the galaxy that peace did not come from dominance but from respect and understanding. Humanity was no longer seen as the unpredictable outsiders. They had carved a place in the galaxy as ambassadors of adaptability and endurance, proof that true strength lay not in force alone but in the courage to fight for one's ideals, even in the face of overwhelming odds. And as humanity moved forward, Riley's legacy lived on as a beacon of what was possible when survival gave way to mutual respect and cooperation.